Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to the car. Today, we're going to do another post workout career advice video because that's apparently what we do now. So, I got a letter from Andrew here who writes, "Hi, Andreas. I hope you're well. I'm a big fan of the work you're doing with Serenity, and I've been following you since the early days. It is so inspiring to see you share the development process of it on YouTube. Earlier, I saw your video where you talked about quitting the first job, and I wanted to ask you for some advice as I am in a weird situation and I need some guidance on what I should exactly do or whether my thought process is right. I will keep it short. So, I graduated this past December and was lucky enough to get a job that started initially as a freelancer last August and then transitioned into full time once I had graduated. They were nice enough to accommodate my schedule with school and were very generous in giving me a full time offer that I believe is very high for a fresh graduate. While I'm very grateful for this opportunity, I'm also thinking about quitting and going back to freelancing since I'm realizing that I'm paying so much money in taxes now that I work on a W 2 versus before where I was billing as a business and paying my own taxes at end of year, which allowed me to deduct a lot of expenses and benefit from many great business benefits my city offers to reduce overall taxes. I should mention that I've been freelancing throughout the time I was in school and have a business registered, so this is not something new to me. My ultimate goal is to be able to work for myself and do my own thing rather than working for someone else and having to pay an outrageous amount of taxes. Even if it means I make less money in the beginning, I'm totally okay with that. My question is the following. Am I right in pursuing the decision of quitting and focusing on growing my business instead? I feel like this is the right path, but everyone I've asked tells me it's not a smart idea. I do have some savings set aside to be able to sustain myself for a while, so I'm not under pressure to have income coming in right away. Since you've been in the industry for a while and have worked for multiple companies, I would love to hear your thoughts and what you would advise me to do if you were in my shoes. Thanks, Andrew." All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, for writing in and for following Serenity since the early days. That's really nice to hear from someone who's been around for a long time. Um, so I guess the first thing I will say is a disclaimer that I've never had my own registered business, so I don't know anything about that really, at least I have no experience about that with that. So I've always been an employee really in this industry. But with that said, my advice for you. So I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with the path of being a freelancer. Um, The main concern I have about it is that you don't want to end up doing unstimulating work over and over and not growing as a programmer. And it's easy to see how that would happen if you do sort of client-based freelance work, right? Where you get these gigs lined up and you don't get to choose what to do, and it's sort of maybe a lot of or a fair amount of monotonous, samey work, and you don't work with other people. You just get to do some little thing by yourself here and there, or whatever it is, really. Um, and I think it's definitely a risk that you don't end up learning a lot as you go down that path. Um, the I would say that's the main benefit that I've seen from working at companies, working on teams, especially big teams and doing big projects. Uh, just to get to work with very experienced people and learning from them. And I can see how you would miss out on that. So I think the freelance path is great if it has that component. So I would say, as a freelancer, if you could pursue at least some percentage of gigs that are on teams or in groups, or somehow where you get to work with others, um, because if it's probably fine just right now, right? But you got to think in the future, like what about 5 years from now? What about 10 years from now? Where are you going to be um, with your personal development as an engineer, right? If you're just working by yourself for 5 years, for 10 years, yes, you will improve, but it won't be anything like you would improve if you worked together with more experienced people. So um, that's my concern here. Now I guess there are other ways to address that concern as well. Like even if you do freelance and you do primarily freelance work by yourself, you could still participate in open source development, for example. Whether whether in like a professional capacity by freelancing somehow, figuring out some magical way to freelance and get paid to do open source work. I don't know. Um, I mean, in a way, I guess that's what I'm doing lately. Although it's very strange, the the business model around Serenity, if you want to call it that. Um, so I guess it's not at all the same thing that you're talking about. So I can't really transfer anything there, but um, I think I think it's cool that you're thinking this way, and I think the people that you talk to who try to steer you away from this, they're just scared. I'm scared of this too. This frightens me. The idea of not having an employer to fall back on. Like, what if there's no work suddenly and you don't get a paycheck? What if that? What if this? Um, what if the customer gets upset and like I have to deal with that? Like, why can't sales deal with that or whatever? Those things scare me a little bit, to be honest. And I think most people are scared of this. That's why most people end up as employees. And I think it's cool that you are, daring to go against that. And it sounds like you already figured out that ultimately that will benefit you, as you will get access to ultimately lower taxes and beneficial government programs and whatnot. And perhaps one day you will even become an employer yourself, and you will um, provide income for other people and security and these kind of things. So that would be a pretty cool thing. So I think if you have the balls to go freelance and build a business, you should probably pursue that, and like don't listen to us scared people who would advise you against it. As long as you like it, as long as you feel like it's actually moving towards a direction of sustainability, towards in a good direction in general. I would just caution you very seriously to think about this personal development aspect. Um, and I guess the closest I've ever been to freelancing was I worked in a web development agency or whatever shop many, many years ago. It was like 16 years ago. And we had gigs coming in, and I don't know what kind of development you do, by the way. So maybe this like doesn't apply at all. But I remember the gigs we had coming in. They were from like small businesses and stuff, and they wanted this and that kind of thing on the web, a little bit of e-commerce or whatever. Of course, this was in like 2004, so things were technical landscape was significantly different back then. But I vividly recollect that none of the work was particularly challenging, and most people wanted kind of the same things. You ended up with this kind of cookie cutter um, tasks where you could kind of reuse a lot of things, and it was pretty boring work, to be honest. After doing it a couple of times, it was just the same over and over again. So um, yeah, so I guess I've hammered the point enough now, but you really that's really the risk I see. So you want to have access to teamwork somehow, whether you pursue that through your selection of gigs, or if you participate in open source, that's really up to you. Or of course, this may not be important to you, and you care more about building a business, making money, becoming, growing your business, becoming maybe an employer yourself, all of those aspects of it, and you're less interested in becoming a better programmer, then that's perfectly valid too. Then this matters a little bit less, although I would probably say that um, that it's significantly easier to hire good programmers if you are yourself a good programmer or if you have good programmers on staff, because good programmers tend to want to work with other good programmers. Um, so if you have those kind of plans in the future where you would like to hire more people, it will benefit you greatly to be a good programmer yourself. Anyway, I guess these are my thoughts about that. Um, so to sum it up, um, don't listen to the scared haters who say that you shouldn't go freelance. If you have the balls to go freelance, man, and pursue independence and try to try to become like an awesome business guy. And nothing wrong with that. Like, I hope you succeed, man. I hope you do make more money and you pay a little bit less taxes than the people who are scared and employed. um, and just again, for the millionth time, just be careful that you don't miss out on working on teams. Um, yeah. All right. Uh, I hope that answers your question. Um, I think if your current employer would be willing to employ you as a freelancer, so like you can stay on where you are, it's just that they would pay to your business instead of pay you as an employee. That might be worth pursuing as well. I don't. Maybe that's actually what you were asking, and I just didn't understand. If so, I think that's probably worth pursuing. Um, if you can make that work, just because that's much closer to the structure that you would like to have to your business going forward, right? So don't get caught in the trap of employment if you don't want to be there. Um, but it's also not a bad thing to spend a couple of years as an employee and maybe at some big places so you can learn some big stuff, and then you can take what you learn and go and do whatever you want. That's perfectly viable as well. You choose your choice. But yeah, like I think you have a bright future with that attitude, and just go get him, dude. Yeah. So I guess that's it. So thanks for writing in, Andrew, and um, thanks everybody else for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.